Last week we talked about, we went over the cross being the revelation of our value and how we are, because of what Christ fulfilled, we are righteous now, and because of that we are saved for good works. So now all throughout the gospel it talks about how Jesus went around proclaiming the gospel, healing the sick. It was both. It was heal the gospel, or preach the gospel, and then heal the sick. And it just kind of reminds me of like show and tell as a kid. Did anyone else do show and tell? Mm-hmm. Show and tell, right? You come to school, yeah. You have your little toy or whatever. You show the class. It's just like you're. On one hand, he's telling them about it, and then the other hand, he's demonstrating it for them. And who's had the Kirby guy come to their house? Vacuum guys. Yeah? What do they do? They come. They give you a demonstration of so like, I mean, if they were to say, hey, this vacuum is so powerful, it just sucks. You gotta something's to be held down. You gotta hold on to small things, small children, or else it'll just suck them in. I mean, you go, well, that's great. Like if he just gave you a pamphlet and said, well, here you go, trust me, it's legit. You'd be like, I don't know. Well, let's see it. And right. So in Acts 3, 11, 12, and 16, it's right after Jesus healed, or not Jesus, John and Peter. They see the guy outside the temple. He's like, oh, money, silver, gold, silver I don't have, but what I do have, I'll give to you. He says, in the name of Jesus, rise and walk. Mm-hmm. And then everyone's going around. Everyone starts gathering, and they're like amazed. And he's like, "Why is it some power, or our own by as if it's out by our own power or our own piety, and piety being like our own devotion to God, that you think that this man was made well? But let it be known to you that it was by the name of Jesus this man stands before you in perfect health." That's because it's important that we do both of them together. Like we must do both of them together. That's where Paul, right? So we go to Acts when Paul goes to Athens at Mars Hill, right? So he gives like all the top rhetorics of the day, all the arguments, all the because they would like to sit around and debate things and just talk about new things. It was, I think, idle talk or idle babble, I think he says. And they would just, that's all he did, talk about whatever. And so Paul goes up there and gives his case for Christ, and he tells them all that, the God of whom you don't know, I'll proclaim to you, and tells them, and explains it very thoroughly, very, very to the point. And at the end of it, it's kind of like, well, he didn't perform any signs or any miracles or anything. It was just, but I mean, it was a great sermon, really great sermon, And yeah, it was like, if you go to so at the very bottom of the Acts, right, at the very bottom of the chapter, it says only few people wanted to know more about it. Only a handful of people. And but then if you look at Acts 18:1, it says, and Paul went to Corinth. Right? It's important. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. All right, so Paul, after Paul's sermon at Mars Hill, it says in Acts 18 verse 1, it says Paul left and went to Corinth. And then if you go to 1 Corinthians 2, 1 and 5, he says, and When I came to you, brethren, I did not come with superiority of speech or wisdom, proclaiming to you the testimony of God. For I determined to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I was with you in weakness and fear and in much trembling. And my message and my preaching were not in persuasive words of wisdom, but in the demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith would not rest in the wisdom of men, but on the power of God. And I like how it all links here, right? So Paul has this deal going down in Athens, and it's like there wasn't much. It was just all he did was come to them with the testimony of Jesus. That's all he had. And I think it's just something important about, I guess, the power of God. Right? It automatically puts people into a position of like, wait a minute, like what just happened? Like, you pray for someone and their shoulder gets healed, and it's like they now have to make a choice. Like, is this real or is this not? Like, it kind of.
That's right.
And so in healing, going back to Acts, right? So the healing in the name of Jesus, I did a search. I just found it interesting because it says they're asking by what power, or in chapter 4 in Acts, the Pharisees are like, well, by what power, by what name did you perform this sign? And they're like, when he says like by what name, it was odd. So I did a search on it, and I had this theoretical dictionary of the New Testament, or theological dictionary of the New Testament, and I was researching in the name of, right, that kind of phrase. And when it says in the name of Jesus, there's a reference here. It says, as the disciples are set in his sphere of power, so as the disciples are set in his sphere of power, they for their part can act in his name. For example, on his commission and also in his power. For they find in such action his power works in them. Lord, even the devils are subject to us in thy name. Luke 10:17. Right. Now, who would say, because in Corinthians it says we are all given a manifestation of the Spirit. We all have a manifestation of the Spirit. Who would say that they have the gift of prophecy? Like who has the gift of prophecy? One. We got one. One person, they would say the gift, not like a prophet, like the office of prophet, but like, anyone have? Okay. In 1 Corinthians 14:31-32, it says, for you can all prophesy, one by one, so that all may learn and all may be exhorted. So every single one of us has the ability to prophesy. Every single one. Everyone. And that's, yeah. And it's important that we know that and understand that. There was there's a pool in our area where I live, and there were some teenage girls there, and they were talking about getting a palm red, and I was like, Lord, well, like they're looking for something spiritual, they're looking for something, and they're seeking something, and I'm like, but she didn't end up going, so I was like, Lord, like what do you have for her? Like what's a word you would have for her? And I just had this image of like Mickey Mouse doing like on Fantasia, just doing his thing. I was like, I don't know what that means, but and then like I was like, well, Lord, okay, if this is you, right? If I say something to her, the other people are going to want to hear something too. And then I felt like I had something for all of them, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I better, step up or step down. And so I was like, hey, I just, I felt, I heard you talking about want to go to a palm reader, and I asked God, I practice hearing from God and stuff, and I just wanted to say, like, I saw like a conductor. Like, I don't know if you're like in the band or you're going to be a conductor in the band of some sort. And she was like, well, I don't see myself doing it in the future. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's in the future. I just could be right now, I don't know. She's like, well, I'm gonna be the conductor of the band, of the high school band next year. I was like, oh, sweet. So then I don't know, I felt like it was God, and I wouldn't step out and said everything else. I was like, well, I felt like, and I asked God that you were gonna have something to do with, training horses, and I was like, and you were gonna have something to do with, or, what was it? It was like, sports medicine. And I was like, and the other one's gonna be like an actress and acting and stuff like that. And like, it was creepy. It's like, sorry. But, it's just, being able to know that you have the ability to prophesy, and then being able just to tap into that at any time, whenever you need to, whenever you can, you don't have to wait until you have some dream about someone you've never met before to tell them whatever. Like, we can bring, God has solutions for every problem everywhere, all the time, and everywhere we work. And so I'm going to go into the purpose of prophecy in 1 Corinthians 14:3. The one who prophesies speaks to men for edification, exhortation, and consolation. There it is. That's the purpose of it. But the effect of it says, but if all prophesy, and an unbeliever or an ungifted man enters, he is convicted by all, he is called to account by all. The secrets of his heart are disclosed, and he will fall on his face and worship God, declaring, God is certainly among you. So, it's like, I just feel like prophecy, kind of has gotten a bad rap sometimes in some circles. And I just think if the enemy's trying that hard to foul it up or dismantle it, like it's important. And I don't know. All right, I'm going to get into the words of knowledge real quick. In Matthew 16:13 and 17. So now when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he was asking his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is? And they said, well, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, but still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I like to put myself in like Peter's shoes here. And I'm like, what was that like for Peter? Right? Jesus just asked him a question. He gave him a response, and now Jesus is telling him, no, you didn't even come up with that. That wasn't, you didn't even think that thought. That was God. God told you that. My Father told you that. And I'm like, wait a minute. So it's just how God speaks to us. A lot of it's just in our thought life. It's because he's in our heart, right? In heart, it means thoughts or feelings. And it's important to know that God's first language isn't Greek or Hebrew or English or French, but he can speak to us in pictures and in any way. In a moment here we're going to get into groups, but before we do, I want to, this last point here, so sometimes I go out and I'll pray for people and they won't be healed. And it can be frustrating. And I think it's important not to make excuses why someone is or is not healed. Because if Jesus were there and Jesus would have prayed for that person, I know for a fact they would have been healed.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
And so, but I'm still, I'll beat myself up sometimes. But every time I do, I get a call from my grandma. Every time. And she goes, Austin, I just love that the Lord, is working through you. You got a healing ministry, and
Amen.
I'm just like, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, all right. But it's every time, she'll be all the time. And it's always right after someone didn't get healed, always. But one of the things, 1 Samuel 17:31-37, it's just, we need to keep a record of the testimony, right? Of the testimonies God does. I usually write down in a book the testimonies, like they were healed, but I go more into detail about it, like if I didn't know, if I was unsure, or felt skeptical, or was just whatever was going on in my head, I make sure to record it, because it's important that we know and can remember that God honors the obedience of versus sometimes I pray and I know that I know that I know. Like I remember I went and prayed for someone and their friend was with them and I was like, hey, can I pray for your leg? And they laughed at me. And I was like, well, you just wait and see. And I prayed for them and she was healed. And so I just feel like it's very important to keep track of the testimony. So when David was about to go fight Goliath, he was like, or there's that psalm, right, where it says, I'm smarter than all my teachers or instructors because your testimonies are my counselors. And in 1 Samuel 17:31-33, David's like, well, the Lord the Lord delivered me from the lion and the bear, so he'll deliver me from this uncircumcised Philistine. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so God already did this with me. We've already done this. This is going to be just like that. There's no, and I just think it's just important to keep that and meditate on that stuff. All right? But tonight we're going to do something a little different. Okay? A little different. We're going to get into groups. We're going to get into, I don't know how many people we have here. I'm not going to count. But I want to get a little circle in the center, facing outboard. And then I want another circle around them facing inboard. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ask God to speak through us for the other person. And then the first time I did this exercise, it was like, sorry guys, I don't really hear from God, so I'm sorry. And then, but by the end of it, it was like, yeah, I had this image in my head. I'm like, this person's at a library, but I was like, you're in college, and you like college because, and I just started knowing all this stuff. I started spitting all this stuff out, and it was just, it was really cool. So it's going to be a couple minutes, and then we'll switch, and then the other person will speak to you, and then. What?
What if you don't have anything to say?
Well, then ask God for something to say. Faith comes from hearing. By the word. And then we're going to switch. We're going to rotate people. So the outer circle will rotate one, and then we'll do it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.